Hi, good morning everyone, and welcome back. I actually just finished painting my nails. Trying my hardest not to smudge them. Like, I am such a clumsy person that me and nail polish just doesn't get along when I paint my nails. There's not a chance where I do not smudge my nails. Even when I go in to get them done professionally, I smudge them. That's why I have to get the gel, because the gel dries a lot faster and it's smudge free. So that's why I'm holding my hands like this, because I'm trying not to smudge them. So far, I have not smudged them. So hopefully I can get through this video without messing them up. But I do want to come to you guys to talk to you guys about this topic that has been brought to my attention in my inbox. It's like a ongoing conversation that you guys apparently want me to have with you. So let's do it. Let's do it, okay? I do have a glass here of a smoothie mix that I made a couple days ago. It's kale, it is ginger, raw ginger, orange juice, oranges, and I think that's it. Oh, and I got, I think, some almond milk in here. So, I think it was back in 2019 when I made a video. I think it was it around the summertime? I think it was 2019. When I made this very triggering, I guess you can call it illicit. I didn't think that it was illicit. I didn't think that it was inappropriate, but apparently it was very vulgar video that I made on a dream that I had about my dad, surrounding some fantasies that I have had growing up as a little girl. And when I made the video, for me it was just a video, just like any other video I come to you guys and make. It wasn't, I mean, for me it was alarming, but it wasn't like, oh, a special video that I thought would get this great response that it's gotten over the past couple years. Like, when I first made it, it didn't even go viral. It was just a regular video, just another video. And then, like, this year I saw, was it this year or was it, I think it was the beginning of this year, where I saw, like, the numbers was just skyrocketing. And it was, it was like, it had gotten to the hundreds of thousands. I think leading up to this year, last year, it was probably like tens of thousands of people had already watched the video. But this year, somehow those numbers like tripled. And so a good number of people had saw the video and of course shared their responses. And some people were like saying they could relate, they could identify with what I talked about, what I shared, because it's a very intimate moment that I shared with you guys concerning a dream. It didn't even happen for real, but for me, I think sometimes dreams do seem very real. So sometimes I don't really make a differentiation between my dream life and my waking moments. And they said they could identify. They said they had, gone through similar situations. They had similar fantasies and dreams before. And they could identify. And then some people took to trying to demonize me. They tried to cast me to hell because I made this video. And I'm just like, my God, they made me out to be this evil person. Oh, you need to get prayer. You need to get the Holy Ghost put in you. Like, they started to spew their religious rhetoric onto me and try to baptize me, I guess, in their holiness, their self-righteousness. And I'm just like reading comments like, seriously, you guys, you don't even know me. I'm always taken aback to see how people can watch one video and then from that they make this assumption about who you are. I'm like, okay, you guys know me, you think you do, whatever. But I mean, that's their opinion, that's their perspective, that's where they're coming from. based on their own personal experiences. A lot of people did get triggered by the video because, you know, I think in their mind, they were thinking that the person in the video, being myself, was underage as I was having the dream. And I'm like, I don't know about you guys, but I don't know if it's possible, if it's ever happened where a person has actually had a dream about themselves, but it was their younger self they dreamt about. I don't think that's ever happened to me. When I dream, the dreams, like if I'm having a dream in the year of 2019, which that dream took place, then whatever age I am in my waking hours in real life, so to speak, is the age that I am in the dream. Or it could be about myself in the future, but it's never retroactively, like it's never a retroactive age, right? Where I'm dreaming about myself when I was a young girl. So I think in some people's minds, they got triggered and thinking like, they're imagining, you know, molestation, or they're imagining a younger woman in the dream. And it's just like, no, you guys, the dream is about myself in this current day and age. Just, that's the kind of dream it was. Like, I can't tell you guys anything otherwise. So since then, like I said, I have been getting a lot of comments, people emailing me, people wanting me to do one-on-one consultations because they find this topic very fascinating. They can relate to it in many different ways, and I like that. So I appreciate that honesty, that level of maturity that people have come to me with after watching my video, wanting to have one-on-one conversations. At this moment, I mean, I thought about it, but at this moment, I decided that I'm not going to do one-on-one consultations like over Zoom. People were asking me like, oh, how much you charge? How much can I pay you? Can I cash up you some money to, you know, give me advice, you know, like one-on-one, because I'm going through a similar situation. I'm just like, I guess my schedule is so busy that my free time, I just like to devote to just doing things that are carefree, right? Like, that doesn't really involve an obligation to anyone, for that matter. Not to say that I don't enjoy talking to you guys, and that I don't, you know, I wouldn't enjoy doing like one-on-one consultations. Of course I would, but that's still another obligation. And I feel like my plate is very full right now with obligations, considering I am nearing the end of my PhD training, you guys, in clinical psychology. So I'm just like, yes, I'm so close. I'm so close, you guys. I actually graduate this year in May. So having said that, going into the future, I probably will. Maybe in the summer, I may begin consultation. So check back with me, you guys, if you are interested in a one-on-one consultation. Just come back around. I haven't ignored you guys. I haven't avoided you. I see you. I'm just trying to manage my time appropriately. Mangalau, how are you? And where are you tuning in from? So I don't mind addressing these emails that I receive, these concerns, these questions that I receive from various people across the world. Like in a video, I feel like it can help a lot of people, because most of you guys are asking me the same questions. Like most of you guys want me to talk about the same exact thing. So I am going to read you guys an email that I received. This was sent a couple days ago, February 13th. The person that sent it, he will remain anonymous. All right, let's go. So he says, hello Danny, how are you? I'm a subscriber to your YouTube channel. I love your page and content. I hope you continue posting and sharing your life and experiences. Then he tells me his name and his age, and he's from Canada. He says, the reason for me writing is in regards to a video you made involving one of your more controversial topics, which involved a taboo subject and your father. I have experienced this as well throughout my life with members of my family, like my mother, aunts, and such. it was helpful seeing that I'm not the only one. Of course, you're not the only one. Many of us share the same experience. It's just people don't want to talk about it. It's taboo. People, I think, don't know, like, they don't have the courage, right? And when they begin to talk about or even think about it, right, it surfaces uncomfortable feelings, right? Like, it triggers uncomfortable feelings in them. And people have a hard time dealing with uncomfortable feelings. And for me, I like to challenge myself. This is what I do. This is the work I do. I work in the field of mental health and psychology, so I feel like it is a challenge. It's a challenge to address the things that are difficult to talk about for people. That means that you should want to talk about it. Like, if it's hard for you to talk about it, then that should be an indication that you should talk about it. But I think people in their minds, they interpret that, okay, if it's difficult for me to get out, then I'm not supposed to talk about it. Because if it was meant for me to talk about, then it would be easy, right? I wouldn't have these uncomfortable feelings surrounding the issue. I would not be perspiring, or I would not be so anxious about talking about it. It's like, no. That means you should talk about it. But those dreams and thoughts have at times manifested to a desire and fantasy that sometimes I'm not sure how to direct. I admit I have at times wanted and thought about in reality, which leads me to my question or advice on how I can find a way to control these thoughts and feelings. Now, it's interesting that this viewer, he is coming from a different perspective, I think, than most. Right, because like I shared with you guys previously, most people, they came with the perspective of either being judgmental or being almost obsessed with the idea, right? Like, oh my gosh, I also experienced the same thing. Oh, can you talk about it more? Like, they want to indulge in the fantasy more. Whereas this viewer is actually saying, no, he can identify with the fantasy, with the dream, right? But at the same time, he wants to control these ideas, these thoughts, these thoughts that probably, obviously, he doesn't have control over, that come just up from his subconscious mind. There are a lot of thoughts that live in our subconscious mind. They don't get a chance to make it to the conscious mind. They don't. They try. They're trying to ease their way up. They're like, do, 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 do. And our conscious mind like, nope. Stay down. I'm not going to think about you. It's inappropriate because I've been taught this by my parents and by religion and whatever. So they don't get a chance to make it to our conscious mind. But just imagine those things that rest in our unconscious mind, those fears that we have, our fantasies, our dreams. If they got a chance to make it up to our conscious mind, imagine how that would impact our reality. We would be probably totally different people. We would. And I think where people get in the most trouble is because they suppress those uncomfortable thoughts or fantasies. They suppress them. When they come to the conscious mind, they push it back, meaning they deflect away from it. They avoid it. They try to change their mind. They run away from it. But it finds its way out, though. That's the thing about energy. Like they say, energy is neither lost nor destroyed, right? So if you look at, that's a law. Energy is neither lost nor destroyed, but transformed or transferred, right? Look at that. Look at our thoughts, our desires, our fantasies. Look at this, right, as energy. It's not going anywhere. Even though you try to suppress it, it's still very much there. And it's going to manifest itself in a different form. And I think, as I was saying, I think where we get into the most trouble is because when we suppress those inappropriate ideas, they show up. They keep coming up, and you're just like, why did I accidentally touch my aunt's butt? Like, why did my hand, like, I was giving her a hug, but it just kind of like, my hand just like, mysteriously just dropped down there, and it's just like landed on her butt. Oops, I didn't mean to. Now, granted, of course, this conversation, you guys, this topic is for mature audiences only. And when we're talking about these fantasies are regarding adults, okay? Because some of y'all like to come up with your own imagination, right? Like, your mind goes wild, and you assume that you kind of like interject like your own idea of who I'm talking about, and somehow it becomes children. You like, no, we're not talking about children. I never had a dream regarding sex relationships with a child. Like, no. Okay, like, I just feel like I want to make sure that I'm being understood, and it annoys me sometimes when people just, they take one thing that you say and they twist it around into their own concoction of what they think that they want you to say. I don't like that, right? So we're not talking about molestation. We're not talking about child abuse. We're not talking about anything of the sort. We're talking about adults, okay? Sexual fantasies regarding adults. Particularly adults within a person's biological family makeup. And this guy is referencing his mother, aunts, and such. Now, we can assume that his aunt is of age, right? We don't know, but we can assume. And so let's go with that, okay? That's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about children. I have to make that very clear, because if you don't, people just come up with their own assumption. And that's inappropriate. You're going to talk about what's inappropriate. That's inappropriate. You projecting your own freaking assumptions onto someone else that are not true. So I think being able to process these thoughts in a safe space, I think, is what's necessary. Now, I would love to create a place for that. And I think I'm still going to. Like, I think that might be part of my life's work. Of course, you guys know I do have a dedication, commitment, and passion for working with African Americans and just melanated people across the diaspora. Like, that is my passion, but I also have passion for different things, right? Talking about alternative, taboo subjects that people just are finding a very difficult time grappling with, or don't have the words to address in an appropriate way. So I think that I am going to do that. I am going to pursue that definitely in the future, working with groups of people in a private, safe setting where we could open up and have these discussions, and without ridicule, without punishment, without consequence. Like, why should people feel a certain kind of way? Why should they be judged? Why should they be crucified because they have certain thoughts that come up, which we all do. We all experience things like this. I think it's important to be able to process these thoughts in a safe space, obviously, in a mature way, in a productive way. I think, no, it's not healthy to ruminate, like to constantly worry about certain things. Like, that's, I think, problematic. That's counterproductive. That's maladaptive. I think it'd be more adaptive to be able to process and think about these thoughts in a way that is going to help you move forward. And what I mean by that is being able to dissect the thought itself. You look at the thought. Now, he didn't go into detail to say what the thought is, right? Specifically, what is it? Are you just thinking about kissing? Are you thinking about holding her tight? Are you thinking about rubbing her feet? I've gotten emails from guys who say they have a foot fetish, and they've thought about that in reference to their mother, like just massaging her feet. Is that considered to be incest? You just massaging her feet? I mean, when I was a little girl, I used to massage my father's feet. But that was more like me just showing my affection towards him, my care towards him, right? Giving him massages, like on his back, you know. He had this recliner chair like in the living room, and I was just like, massage his back. I made a whole video on intimate moments with my dad. You guys can go watch that. But it was nothing sexual happening. It was just, you know, what a child does when they care about their parent. You know, my dad is significantly older than I am, by the way. My dad is old as fuck, okay? I am 37 years old. My dad is 79. He is 42 years old, older than I am. So, yes, I would do things like that for my dad. My dad gets around pretty well, though. Like, he still cuts his grass. Like, he had a riding lawnmower when I was growing up. I think he still has it, or maybe he has a push lawnmower. But he gets around pretty well. Takes care of himself. He has a girlfriend. Like, he's living his life. So, I'm wondering, like, specifically, what is the fantasy? What are the thoughts that you're having? Are you thinking about caressing her breast? Are you thinking about just lying in bed naked with her, you know? Are you thinking about penetrating her? Because that's a different conversation, if you are. And it's going to be a different way you would go about processing that information. But overall, I would like to say that when these thoughts come up, like, I don't think that it's healthy to just try to not think about it. Like, for me, what I did, clearly, I came to you guys and I made a video about it. I talked about it. You know, one may say, okay, you should go talk to your therapist about it. Therapy, now granted, I am an advocate for therapy, clearly, right, as a developing psychologist. However, okay, I have to say this. As an advocate for therapy, I have to even say this, that you do have to be careful who you choose to enlist as your therapist, as your mental and emotional health provider in your life. Like that, your life is your personal space. Just because a person has a license, just because they have a degree or certain credentials attached to their name, does not mean that they are qualified to handle your life with care. It just doesn't. Everybody's life is different. Every individual person is different. You deserve care. And just like every individual person is different in terms of a client that a professional may see, every professional, licensed clinician is different. They come with their own characteristics, their own predispositions, their own biases. So you have to be careful with sharing information with people who may hold certain biases, personal biases, right? Because of course they're trained. Like most of us, we're kind of trained in a very systematic way, right? Like in a very similar way, a very standardized way. That's the word I'm looking for. Like our training is pretty much the same. When you look at like training programs in clinical psychology, they teach you the same theoretical information, right? You're learning the same theories and clinical practices and techniques, and we study the same research, you know, so it's pretty much standardized across the board. But what's different is what the individual person brings to that, right? Because we all have our own spin to how we interpret the information, the theories, and how we apply it, and what we bring as individual persons. You know, we're different. So talking to me as a clinician is going to be much different than talking to my colleague, even though we may have gone through the same program, taken the same exact classes, had the same exact professors. We are just going to deliver it differently. And I cannot emphasize this enough, that it's important for people to be very careful, very selective, I think, in who you choose as a person who is going to care for you in that way. As a professional person who's going to care, who's going to listen, and who's going to intervene in a certain way, you have to be careful. Because this is like, your life is, of course, delicate, right? But this particular niche, this is a niche here. Like, talking about alternative sexual experiences or fantasies, like, that's a niche. That's very delicate. And you need a clinician that's going to handle it with care, isn't going to, like, try to judge you or manipulate you into becoming something that you don't want to become. You know, right? Because I think sometimes, like, clinicians can take this, what do you want to call it? They take an approach where they're just pretty much, we're trained pretty much in a consistent manner, right, across the board. And so you're training people to all just be the same, right? Like this assembly line approach, right? It's like, no, everybody is not the same. Every person is not going to come out the same exact way when they leave my office, right? But they're like training people like we're just making the duplicates of each other. No, everybody should be different, unique. And I like to emphasize a person's unique qualities. Like, that's what makes you unique. If you're having fantasies about having sex with your mother, like, that's something unique, right? And I think that there's a way that information can be handled in a way that is not going to harm you, it's not going to harm anyone else, that is going to be meaningful, right? You can come up with a meaningful interpretation and understanding of that fantasy. When I look at my own personal life, given that I've had fantasies about my father, right? I don't look at it as a bad thing. And I think there was one person that left a very insightful comment on my post. And I did make a video where I was reading comments left on that video about my dream I had about my dad. I'm not sure if I read the comment. I remember reading the comment because that person's comment was how I interpreted the dream. How I saw myself in the dream, right? And it was just a very insightful, powerful comment. I'm just like, wow, like me and that person, we see eye to eye. Like we're on the same page with respect to that. And I don't remember the person's exact words, but they said something along the lines of, you know, it's not, first of all, those kinds of dreams are not abnormal, right? Like, a lot of people have dreams about that. So they normalized the situation. They validated my experience. And they said that basically the dream that I had was just a manifestation of the love I have for my father. And I think it is filtered through my own lens, right? My lens that I see, the way in which I look at the world, the way in which I interact with people, has been shaped based on many experiences that I've had, right? Good and bad. But also, it's not just experiences, it's just my archetype and who I am as an individual person. This is just who I am. So I think when I speak about like who I am, right, and my experiences that have made me who I am, like I'm a woman who is very comfortable in her sexuality. I embrace it. You know, alternative lifestyle. Like, I'm into BDSM, so I embrace that. It's fun to me. It's fascinating. And the way in which I see love is different than the way in which a person watching this video may see love and interpret love, right? So people express love differently, and I think that's probably why the dream manifested and the fantasy manifested in the way it did, because granted, I am a sexual being. Not to say I'm a freak, though. I don't like the word freak when people are like, oh, you a freak. No, but I'm sexual, and even my posts, like, you guys follow me on Facebook. A lot of you guys who watch my YouTube channel don't follow me on Facebook, but if you follow me on Facebook, you'll see, like, a lot of my posts have a sexual spin to it, and I have fun with it. Some people like to use humor. I like to use sex, you know, add a little spice to the post. So, given that I'm a sexual person, I think the way in which I relate to people can be sexual. Can be a bit sexual in nature sometimes. But it depends. Sometimes I suppress my sexuality. Just to... I have to take a deep breath for that. But just to appease other people because, you know, it's been demonized in our society so much that people look at sex as a bad thing. But it's really not. And you do have to be careful, you know, in discussing sex in different circles and on different platforms, especially on YouTube. I've noticed that. I learned that the hard way, right? Because that video unfortunately did get deleted, but and I understood why, you know. I even wrote back to YouTube and let them know, because I'm a YouTube partner, and I explained, you know, it's okay, like, I get it, you know what I'm saying? I understand that they're trying to protect themselves. I made a response video, actually, so maybe YouTube saw it, maybe they didn't. But I made a response video to my video being deleted, that video being deleted, right, about the dream I had about my dad. Because I understand, I get it, right, that they want to create a safe platform to protect people from watching or listening to topics that may be triggering, right? But I'm like, that should be a wake-up call for the person watching the video. Like, that says a lot about you. If you're triggered, anytime you're triggered by something, like, you gotta take a look within yourself to see, why are you triggered? What is it about yourself that watching a video of someone else talk about their experience, how does that impact you? Like, why are you feeling a certain kind of way on the inside? Why is it stimulating anger within you? Why is it conjuring up hurt and pain? Because that pain is still there that you're dealing with from your own shit that you went through. It ain't got shit to do with me. I ain't caused you freaking pain or hurt. The hell, you don't even know me. So, I think that even as I think about, you know, us coming together in person or even over Zoom, because now the world is meeting on Zoom now, right? Because of the COVID pandemic, where we can come together in a private space and have mature conversations about these things. I wouldn't mind being a host, right? To an intimate conversation that we can have surrounding our own personal experiences and perspective on this, you know. I don't want it to go amok, though, because the moment I see that people are losing control and not being respectful towards themselves and other people, then like I will just end the freaking meeting, like, abruptly, like, okay, you guys, I will give a warning, but then I'm like, okay, you guys, it's not going. Like, you're not respecting each other. You're talking over each other. Like, there has to be rules set in place, right? So that every person can get a chance to be heard. Meanwhile, when they are speaking, they're being respected. They're being understood. Because that's the whole point. What's the point of meeting if we're not going to listen to understand? If we're just going to be judging each other, like, you're not going to be invited. You're not going to be allowed, you know, when I do create this safe space for us to convene, because I don't think that would be appropriate. It just wouldn't be appropriate. Like, this is not for everyone. It's not for everyone, you know. Especially, I think, religious people, because, you know, they come with their own spin to it, and that's not helpful. It's really not helpful. You got to put aside your own personal biases and beliefs to be able to understand a person. And it's difficult to understand yourself, your own psychology, when you have been conditioned and socialized to look down upon things that aren't in line with your religious beliefs. How can you understand your own sexuality? They just repress it. But it comes up. It comes up. So this guy here in this email, he's asking about ways to address these weird feelings that he's having, right? Towards his mother, his aunts. And I immediately have to say, like, repression is not a good thing, because it's just, it comes back up, right? That's just like likened to the idea of you just stuffing a bunch of shit under your rug in your house, and you're just repressing it, sweeping things under the rug. Eventually, all that shit is gonna pile up one day, right? It's not gonna go anywhere, right? It's gonna actually get worse. So it's better, I think, to have a place where you could express yourself, let it out. Some people do it through art. I think art is a very, like, art is a great medium, I think, for expression, because our society looks at art as invaluable. Like, art is a reflection of life, right? Like they say, life imitates art. Art imitates life. We all know this. But people appreciate art. When I say it's invaluable, meaning like, you really can't put a price tag on art, but if you really had to, you'll see that art is very expensive. It's very expensive. People appreciate art to the nth degree, right? Like, people love art. There are museums, many museums across our country, across the world, where art is shown. And it's all kinds of art. It's art that's sexual in nature, which I tend to like that. And you guys see, I take pictures when I go to museums, right, across New York, across the world, period. But you guys seen recently where I went to the Museum of Modern Art. I went to the Photographica, however you pronounce that, museum, right? I went there, and oh my gosh, just beautiful art. And I tend to take pictures of like the exhibits that speak to me. And I gravitate to art, nude art, sexual art, like art that conveys sexual messages. I like that. So I definitely would recommend to just pick up a pencil, pick up an art pad, and just draw. Like, that's okay. I feel like the art medium makes it like, it puts the experience that you're having in a safe space, where not only you can express yourself, but other people can behold it. They can look at it and see this experience that you're having in your mind, that you've allowed to be pushed down into your subconscious mind. Now it's on paper. Now it's becoming real. It's in a tangible form if you're drawing it, right? Or if you're painting it on canvas. I've done a lot of paintings across my apartment. You guys can check the videos that I made out. But it's an expression, and they're able to see it. If you're sculpting it, even better. You can sculpt these thoughts that you're having, and it can become a permanent fixture in your life, right? That you can look at, you can behold. Is now outside of you, right? Because before it's like in your mind. It's in your mind, it's in your heart, and now you're taking those thoughts outside of your mind and you're putting it out into the universe in a safe medium, because art is a safe space. Yeah, of course you got people that they go to museums and they're like, what is that? And like, but they're still like, what is that? Like, it still catches their eye, and they're just like, oh. They appreciate it more when it's in that format. And then, of course, it's going to spark curiosity. What nude art doesn't spark curiosity? Like, I look at myself, right, and how I interact with nude art. But I also like to look at other people when we're at the museum and seeing how they interact with the nude exhibits versus the other exhibits, right? And people usually just stand and watch, like, just like taking it in, absorbing it actually. They're taking it in and appreciating it. We don't really get to do that in our day-to-day lives. You know? When you watch porn, you gotta go hide and do it, right? And then even in movies that have sex scenes, they have to be done very strategically in a way that it doesn't become porn. That people aren't so alarmed by it or disgusted by it, right? Because they're like, oh my gosh, I'm watching this sex scene in a movie and my grandmother is sitting next to me or my aunt is sitting next to me, you know, my son or daughter or whatever. So it has to be done in a way that it, you know, is tasteful. And I think that's a good way to express yourself in that way. So being able to do it in the privacy of your home, you know, being able to paint, you can get the paint supplies, the art supplies, you know, from Michael's. That's my favorite store. I love Michael's. Even though they did close the one that was closest to me on the Upper West Side, they do have another one in Chelsea that I've been going to frequently. So, and last time I went to Chelsea, Michael's, they were fully stocked. I was just so grateful. I was just like, yes, they have everything I need. They usually don't. They usually don't have the size canvas board that I need, but they actually had it, so I was so grateful. But I think, yeah, once you really like tap into whatever medium that works for you. For me, it's art, and it's talking. I like talking, clearly. You know, I like having conversations because it allows me to process what's on the inside and to get it out and to be heard, even though sometimes I'm misunderstood. But for mature people who are listening, they will ask me to clarify. They will try to understand. So I think that can be very helpful. And doing it in a way, like if you're going to talk about it, doing it in a way that is productive. Like I said, not that you're ruminating on it and you're fixated on these ideas, these fantasies, but you're actually processing it in a meaningful way. And like I gave the example how I was able to process my experience and make sense of it, like, wow. Because in the dream, it went down in the dream between me and my father. Like, it went all the way through to completion, you know what I'm saying? So I think it's just an expression of my love for him, and being that I'm a sexual person, it manifests itself in that way. And in a sexual way. It's just like, oh. And of course, I know people watch this and say, oh, there's different ways to show your love for your father. Of course. But when you think in terms of intimacy, right? Intimacy with your husband or your wife. What's the ultimate level of intimacy? Maybe for you, maybe you're at an age where, you know, you have erectile dysfunction disorder. Or you have, for women, when we get to a certain age, you know, unfortunately, there are issues with our arousal and being able to lubricate. So maybe sex isn't the ultimate for you. Maybe it's taking a nice vacation and putting rose petals on the bed. You know, or, you know, lining up candles around the tub. You know, maybe that's your ultimate way of expressing your intimacy and your love for your partner. Maybe it's just holding each other tightly. You know, I actually experienced that yesterday. I'm like, oh my gosh. No intercourse happened. It was just being held tightly. And the passionate kissing. You know, that can be a way to express oneself. Everybody is different. That's what we come back around to. You know. But I think, you know, within certain cultures, they look down upon certain acts for obvious reasons, you know. But then you can take a different culture where it's perfectly normal, you know, to engage in these types of activities. my father actually we never did that in real life, by the way. That's the ginger, raw ginger I have in there. But we never did that in real life, by the way, at all. And we never will. And the idea of, because I think some people, when they watch videos on YouTube, they don't look at the date, number one. But if you take the time to not only read the title and listen to the video, but look at the date, you'll see that video was made 2 years ago. And since then, a lot of different things have come across my mind. Having sex with my father hasn't really been one of the things that comes to my mind. I mean, it has popped up like maybe 2 times since then, but we're talking about over like a 2-year span. Like that hasn't come across my mind. I think it was more on my mind when I was younger, which I know may raise red flags for you guys. When I say younger, I mean like, yes, I was underage, so, but I didn't act on it. I mean, it wasn't like it was a thought that was perseverating in my mind. I wasn't obsessed with the idea. It's just, it came across my mind. A lot of things came across my mind. Like when I was younger, not just sexual things, but I used to have nightmares, like of people trying to, like monsters trying to kill me and death, and like, because that's just my imagination. My mind is very dynamic, and I accept that. I allow my mind to just flow freely and do what it does, and I don't feel like it's something that needs to be controlled. I don't feel like it's out of control. So in reading this email, when he asks about how can I find a way to control those thoughts, because he's saying that he's having similar thoughts regarding his mother and aunt, how can he control it? I'm just like, do you need to control it? Is it that bad? Has it gotten to the point where you're thinking about this obsessively, like constantly throughout the day, where it's interfering with your day-to-day activities? If not, then why control it? I feel like that will be the only need for you to control it necessarily, is if it's really getting in the way of you being able to function on a day-to-day basis. Like, you're at work and these thoughts are just popping up, which I doubt that's happening, right? Or you're like with your wife if you're married, and like you're thinking about your mom as you're like having sex with your wife. Like, okay, maybe that could be problematic. Maybe not, though. Maybe not. Maybe that's a safe way for the thought to emerge itself and be transformed. Like we talk about the transformation of energy, right? Energy is neither lost nor destroyed, just transformed. Like maybe that's a good way for it to be transformed, in that, okay, you're not able to fuck your fucking mom, but at least you're able to imagine that you're fucking your mom while you're having sex with your wife. But that's a whole different scenario there. So I think, if it's not problematic to that extent, if it's not like, you're not at the point where you're touching them inappropriately, or are you? And they don't like it, and they're like, okay, this guy needs to be put somewhere, If it's not at that point, like, you're not like acting it out, where people are resisting you in that way, why control it? That's why I guess the one-on-one would be good, because I can make videos and talk about this all day and all night, because I like this, right? I love it, actually. But I'm wondering how helpful are these videos if there isn't a back and forth. And a lot of you guys who send me these emails, and a lot of you guys who follow me on YouTube, you guys don't follow me on Facebook. I'm easy to find on Facebook, you guys. Just type in Danielle Leach. See, on YouTube, my name is Danny's World. So I think that's probably like the confusion, because you know, it's Danny's World. People call me Danny on YouTube, but that's really not my name. I just shortened my name just for the YouTube channel. But my name is Danielle Leach. Danielle is spelled with two L's. Danielle. Leach is spelled Leach. Okay? Just type that in. I should be the first person that pop up, given that I have over 10,000 followers on Facebook. And the pictures are the same. I think my profile picture for YouTube is the same as my profile picture on Facebook. Make sure you follow my fan page. I am more active on my fan page than any of my other pages that I have. So you may find some profile pages that come up with my name and my picture, and it's actually me, but I'm not really active on those. So it has to be, make sure it's a fan page on Facebook. Fan page, okay? Fan page is basically a like page. You just like it. That's it. You can't add me as a friend, whatever. You only can like or follow. So I think it'll be more helpful, like, you know, if we were able to engage. You guys can talk and go back and have a conversation of back and forth, because I do have some questions for you, you know. Why do you feel you need to control it? Like, at what point have these thoughts and these feelings manifested themselves in your life? How are they manifesting? That it seems to be out of control for you, and you need help controlling it. Because if it hasn't, then just let them flow. Let them come up. Like I said, it's pretty much weird, like, that I thought about my dad in that way. I think about my dad all the time, of course, because that's my freaking father, okay? I love my dad, but in that particular way, like sexual, I haven't. It just hasn't come up. You know, so I don't see it as a problem necessarily. It hasn't come up. It's not a problem. It's not problematic. When it came up in that dream a couple years ago, I was like, whoa! And I even mentioned, like, in that video that I made, I was like, I didn't stop it, y'all. It felt so good. I didn't stop it. I just let it go. I was like, shit, you know. But I don't even know if I was dreaming, though. You know how you have some dreams where you are aware, you're fully aware that you are dreaming. So you can control the dream. You can even stop it. You can, like, wake yourself up out of it. I don't think I was aware that I was dreaming. So the dreams I'm not aware, I don't have control over. I wake up and I just think back, like, oh, this happened in my dream. I like those dreams. I think I have those kinds of dreams more than the dreams where I have control over the dream. Meaning, when I the dreams that I have control over, like, I'm aware that I'm having a dream. I'm aware that I'm dreaming in the dream. I know it's a dream. And I'm able to go out and do what the fuck I want to do. If I have control over it. I've done that. I had so much fun. Those dreams are actually, that's when I strip nude, run out in the street, and just be out there in my birthday suit. Like, because that's probably what I would want to do in real life, like in my waking hours. Like, I would want to be able to do that, but we can't because they have the indecent exposure laws, which they serve their purpose, you know, because some people don't need to be out there like that, you know, and some people don't know how to respond to something like that. Seeing a woman run out in the street butt ass naked, some people just wouldn't know. They'll take it as opportunity, like, oh, she's out there, she's asking, she's asking for it. Hell no, I ain't asking for it. But thank you for sending this email. I think that it did stimulate a very interesting topic discussion to continue this conversation on alternative sexual experiences that many of us experience. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. I'm not ashamed, even though people were commenting on that video trying to make me feel ashamed. Just like, that's not going to change how I see myself, how I see my dad for that matter. Like, you know, you can express yourself and leave your comment below, but it's not going to change anything about moi. I love myself. I embrace myself. I'm not causing harm to anyone. So I thank you guys for tuning in, and I encourage you guys to feel free to share your comments below on this topic. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know if you've had a similar experience in your life. You know, it's okay. You're not harming anyone. We're talking about thoughts, okay? That's why we need a safe place, because if a person gets ridiculed just for thinking a certain way, like, come on, it's just sex. This is just, we're talking about sex between adults here, family or not. Adults, okay? Can we say that again? Adults. But anyway, I will catch you guys later. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I love you guys. Smooches.